You're telling me that 5 people trusted this to take them nearly 4 kilometres under the ocean? I actually know almost nothing about OceanGate, apart from the few headlines obviously. But apparently there were warning signs everywhere. This was just rich people doing rich people stuff that ended badly. So today we're going to hopefully find out what actually happened.
19th of June, the OceanGate submersible began its descent to the Titanic's fractured remains here in the northwestern Atlantic. With a descent rate of 55 meters per minute, it would take the submersible 70 minutes to reach its destination. With each passing minute, the equivalent of 5.3 atmospheres of pressure would be added to the sub's hull. By the time it reached its target depth, the weight of 366 of Earth's atmospheres would be attempting to crush it.
I don't know how heavy the Earth's atmosphere is, but 366 of it seems quite heavy. Surely this has got to be built out of some crazy material that's just not used on a daily basis.
Applied to an area a little larger than an A3 piece of paper, that's equivalent to the thrust of a Saturn V F1 engine, pressing in from all directions. An hour and 45 minutes into the dive, at the bottom of the ocean, 3,800 meters down, with this immense pressure bearing down on its hull, the OceanGate submersible lost contact with the surface. We now know the submersible imploded, a sudden catastrophic collapse, a tragic accident. However, any composite material engineer could have predicted this failure, and they did.
This is what I mean. Apparently everyone was saying before it went down that it wasn't a good idea, weren't they? Because I remember seeing that about it. I didn't know they was going down to see the Titanic though.
Worked as a composite design engineer and completed my master thesis in composite failure prediction. So, let's dive into the questionable engineering decisions that OceanGate made that led to a tragic accident. With that pressure comes some extreme design challenges. OceanGate's Titan submersible consists of 2 titanium end caps, one with a large acrylic window, joined to a filament-wound carbon fibre reinforced epoxy hull. Inside,
A lot of technical words going on here. The only word I really picked up there was titanium. And I know titanium's supposed to be a lot stronger than steel and lighter, I think. For this to be going this deep, I was expecting it to be a much bigger vessel, I'm going to call it.
the submersible is pretty barebone. Some screens that are fed data from cameras from the outside, and the 4 electric thrusters are controlled with, from what I can tell, a third-party GameCube controller. Many people are focusing on this part of the design.
I'm sorry.
But that's the least.
I'm sorry. They was controlling it with a controller, with a game controller.
Many people are focusing on.
They trusted a vessel to go 4 kilometers down using what looks like an Xbox controller. My PlayStation pad just about runs my PlayStation. Don't think you should be putting multiple people's lives in your hands of a game controller. Seems a bit weird.
This part of the design, but that's the least of my concerns. We will be focusing on one design aspect of this submersible, the composite hull. Carbon fibre composites aren't really known for their compressive strength. They work best in tension. Great for aeroplanes that are pressurized from the inside, where the pressure inside the fuselage works to expand the circular cross-section, putting the fibers in tension. For a submarine, the pressure will work to compress the hull, placing the fibers primarily in compression. This immediately set off alarm bells in my mind when I heard of the missing submarine, so I began digging into their justification for using the material. OceanGate chose this carbon fibre composite primarily to benefit from its natural buoyancy. These type of subs actually want to be as close to neutrally buoyant as possible.
Just to confirm, buoyant means the ability to float, doesn't it? Am I wrong there? Like a buoy in the ocean, something floating. So is he saying they basically wanted it to float as little as possible to obviously make it easier to get down?
Meaning the weight of water they displace weighs about the same as the vehicle itself, minimizing the energy needed to rise or sink in the water.
Okay, yeah, see that. Science.
This means to surface in an emergency, they don't need power. They just drop ballast that make them positively buoyant, and they just float to the surface. The carbon fibre composite can be lighter, and thus helps achieve this neutral buoyancy target. Typically, submarine hulls are made from steel, or more recently, titanium, But in order to achieve the desired buoyancy, they need foam outer layers. OceanGate CEO, Stockton Rush, who was inside the submersible, stated that they wanted to skip this foam layer because it added to costs.
The thing is, when you're taking a few billionaires down to the Titanic, you're putting their lives in your hands. I don't really think you should be trying to cut down on costs from a bit of insulation. If anything, the money that they probably paid, you should be like triple insulating that. I don't think you should be cutting costs on something like this.
Isn't necessarily an evil thing if the composite is up for the job. This is where things get iffy. OceanGate had no idea whether it was up to the task or not, and we know this because they admit it in their own blog post, justifying their decision to not test the vehicle with a regulatory body. The now removed blog entry reads, "Most marine operators require that chartered vessels are classed by an independent group. Classing assures ship owners, insurers, and regulators that vessels are designed, constructed, and inspected to accepted standards. Classing may be effective at filtering out unsatisfactory designers and builders, but the established standards do little to weed out subpar vessel operators. The vast majority of marine and aviation accidents are a result of operator error, not mechanical failure."
Well, it's a good job that, accidents are a result of operator error, and the guy that's operating it is just using a fucking Xbox controller. What could go wrong?
As a result, simply focusing on classing the vessel does not address the operational risks. Now, I would have thought this wouldn't need pointing out, but the fact this glaring red flag has been written on their own website for everyone to see, and several extremely wealthy and successful people didn't seem to think it was an issue, seems to suggest otherwise. Perhaps most submarine accidents occur due to operator error, precisely because they have undergone rigorous testing and certification.
I think I can safely say as well, though, I would feel a million times safer going into space than I would deep down into the sea. Going down to the bottom of the sea in a vessel that the main guys tried to cut costs on, straight away I'm saying no. I'll say, you lot do it first, tell me how it goes, and then I might consider it. But on the other hand, if someone says, oh, do you want to fly up to space in this new rocket? It's been lightly tested, I'd probably snatch their hand off. But going down into the sea, not a chance. You either implode or you drown. Drowning doesn't seem like a good option to me.
For thin-walled pressure vessels, the failure mode is simply buckling, where the pressure simply caves the entire wall in. But here, because the wall thickness is so large to deal with the immense pressure of the deep sea, the failure mode gets more complicated. This failure mode is characterized by delamination of the internal layer of the pressure vessel. Basically, the inside of the pressure vessel suddenly peels away from the rest of the wall, leading to a catastrophic failure of the overall structure.
I wonder if the people that was going down in this ship was just told, oh yeah, we're going to go down to the Titanic and you're just going to see some shit. Or if they was told about all of this beforehand. Like, did the guy bring them all together, sit them in a room, put on a little presentation? This is how it's been built. This is how we're limiting the risks of you dying. This is how much the operation has cost. Or did he just bring them all together and say, who wants to go to the Titanic? Everyone put your hand up. Pay me X amount of stupid money and I'll take you down there. Don't ask questions. If I'm being offered that opportunity, I'm going with a book full of notes and questions.
The exact mechanisms of this failure mode are not entirely well understood, as stated in this 2022 research paper titled A Review of Structural Failure of Composite Pressure Hulls in Deep Sea. It states in its conclusion, investigations on this subject have remained at theoretical level. There is still very little research in this area in recent years. So, I am assuming whoever engineered this pressure vessel did at least the same level of research as a YouTuber who wrote a script on the subject in 2 days. They must have at least
It's the kind of stuff that fills you with confidence, isn't it, that?
of this problem. A failure mode like this is going to be exacerbated by gradual damage incurred by cyclical stresses, like those experienced when diving to depths of 4,000 meters and resurfacing again. They have done that at least 50 times with this vessel, without ever fatigue testing it. Per their own admission, they did not undergo industry standard classifications, but they did do their own classification test. One test, stated on that blog post once again.
It's crazy to me that without even having to go through an external governing body, they've just passed it off themselves. I mean, it's not like there'd be anything such as money being involved that would make them just pass it and say, yeah, it's all good. Feel bad for all the families and all of that of the people that was involved in it. But ultimately, if you're not asking these questions, seeing who it's been passed off by, seeing what the motives could be behind them passing it off, the blame's a little bit on you, I'll be honest.
A licensed marine surveyor will witness a successful dive to 4,000 meters, inspect the vessel before and after the dive, and provide a statement of fact attesting to the completion of the dive test plan. That is simply not adequate. Anything undergoing repeated stress cycles like this needs to be fatigue tested. They designed this thing essentially with computer modeling, with no real-world testing. Their own master thesis tried to combine the two by embedding a fiber and matrix cell within an averaged composite material. There are specialized softwares that can model different fiber orientations, but they are still very much an estimation. You need to back.
This is the thing, like, realistically, you can be the best engineer in the world, but if that thing's not getting tested beforehand, like, no one's calculations are ever going to be right for something that's happening for the first time. You've got to be doing tests, because there'll always be something that you haven't accounted for. Obviously, I'm no engineer, mathematical person, whatever, so that's just my opinion, but surely it needs to be completely stress tested before you put people's lives in it.
This up with physical testing, something OceanGate didn't do. There are more signs of incompetent use of composites.
Also, what he might obviously say, but with OceanGate, what was the need for it to go? Did they want to be the first person to go down to the Titanic? Was they trying to be like a company first for doing that? And how much was the tickets as well? Like, surely they would have just took that extra time. Like, what was the rush for just getting down there?
Critical structure like this, I would very much recommend curing it in an autoclave. That's basically a pressurized oven that helps push those voids I mentioned earlier out of the epoxy resin. Autoclaves are expensive, and it can be difficult to find ones large enough to fit something like this, but it's nice to not have air bubbles in a pressure vessel keeping you alive. However, an autoclave was not used for this pressure vessel. It was simply bagged and cured, a cheaper alternative. Spencer Composites was commissioned to—
Are they like fucking hand curing that? Some things are better to be human made, but when it's going however deep under the ocean with 366 Earth's atmosphere pressing against it, I'd probably leave that one down to the machines to make sure there's no error.
The blog post goes on to dismiss classification tests as unsuitable for innovative design.
Bringing an outside entity up to speed on every innovation before it is put into real-world testing is an anathema. I don't even know how to pronounce that. To rapid innovation. Yeah, but it's also a way to stop 5 people imploding and dying, isn't it though? Because those governing bodies are there for a reason.
Which is complete narcissistic nonsense. This isn't innovative. They have made a pressure vessel from a carbon fiber composite using known manufacturing practices and started charging rich people $250,000 to risk their lives.
$250,000 to go down to the Titanic and just fucking implode. To put that into perspective, I'm pretty certain the average household price in the UK is 250,000. They're charging that for probably what would have been 4 hours. £250,000. No wonder he was trying to speed it up. That's only like 1.2 million. 1.25 million. Like, surely this would have cost a lot more than that. But I'm guessing obviously the plan was to just do this on a daily basis and just keep rinsing everyone. Who knows? That doesn't seem like a good return on investment to me.
Lives in it. Innovation would be creating that pressure vessel and testing it, figuring out the causes of snap buckling, and advancing material science for all mankind. This is profiteering, not innovation. To eliminate all doubt that this company has willfully ignored safety standards, this court case from 2018 was brought against OceanGate by a former employee who was fired shortly after raising concerns about the composite hull, stating that not enough was done to check for delaminations and voids. OceanGate argued that the technology to check for voids and delaminations in a composite this thick did not exist, and instead they would use their acoustic monitoring system, which essentially listens for the sounds of fracture to predict failure. But this is what a carbon fibre...
So wait, they just used something to... So when they was going down, they just would be able to hear if it was cracking. Surely that's going to be too late. If you're going down and you can hear little cracks happening and you're already 3 kilometers under the water, surely that's going to be too late by the time you actually find out.
A composite fracture curve looks like. It's a cliff edge, sudden, catastrophic collapse. An acoustic monitoring system like this is akin to setting up a camera to warn you thunder is coming. You will see the lightning before the thunder, but the time between them is minimal. This is pure safety theater. It gets even worse. On one test dive in the Bahamas, a submersible expert could hear the cracking with his own ears and warned Stockton Rush that it was a sign of damage accumulating.
So when they was just going down in standard sea level in the Bahamas, they could already hear it cracking, and yet after that they still thought, do you know what we'll do? We'll send this 4 kilometers down underwater. Yeah, these lot were stupid. I hate to break to everyone, but these are stupid. And this right here is the prime example. When new shit pops up, just let other people try it first. Because it's easy to just jump onto the hype of something. Being like, oh yeah, I need to be the first. You don't need to be the first one to go down. You don't. Because then when you're imploded, you're probably gonna be annoyed at yourself that you had that impatience.
Stockton, once again, chose to ignore an expert's advice. So, this acoustic monitoring system was purely for marketing purposes, to give customers who don't have the engineering background to see through it a false sense of security. I would attribute this to malice and greed, but Stockton Rush chose to pilot this death trap himself. As Hanlon's
he just doesn't look like the kind of guy I'd be trusting with my life anyway. He just looks like he was part of the Soviet Union, and you're trusting him, this guy who's trying to cut corners financially, to take you and your life down underwater.
razor goes. Never attribute to malice that which can be attributed to stupidity.
Even if I had the stupid amount of money that these people had, you couldn't pay me to go down there for the first time. You couldn't. Okay, so now we've saw what it was made out of. Let's watch this and see what actually happened.
Easing through the lone porthole, the crew were met with infinite darkness. But that didn't dampen the excitement of the 5 people on board. As the sub plunged further into the freezing abyss toward the wreckage of the Titanic, the pressure on the hull mounted. Suddenly, a low groan echoed through the vessel. Then the sound of cracking filled the air. Before anyone could react, the sub imploded.
I could not even imagine going down in some little tin can. You're all excited, and then all of a sudden you just hear loads of little cracks starting to happen. You're way too deep to just be able to just ejecto-ceto, swim up to the top. You know that that's about to just cave in. Like the last, probably 2 minutes of these people being alive, I wouldn't even like to imagine it.
It was over in an instant. Disaster would have likely started with the collapse of a miniature cavity inside the tightly woven layers of carbon fiber making up the hull of the submarine. This small void, and many more like it, would have been only big enough to be spotted on a microscope. It was a manufacturing defect OceanGate were likely...
So it would have literally been the tiniest little cracks. And then as soon as that weakness happens, that pressure is just fucking shit up.
...to be aware of, and yet continue to use their non-independently inspected submersible to take people down to crushing depths. Immediate and catastrophic structural collapse followed. Microscopic cracks radiating from the initial point of collapse all around the carbon fiber.
You know for a fact as well, that would have been so loud inside there. Like, whenever you go under the water, it's like any little noise is amplified. So imagine you're just in a little tin can and you can just hear the little just getting quicker as well. It would kind of start probably with like one little one, and then it would spread, and then you just hear loads more, and you just think, I'm done.
Hole. Propagating faster than the speed of sound, the crew inside would still have no clue what was happening. Nearly 5,000 pounds per square inch of water pressure pushed against those cracks, shattering the hull. Nanoseconds later, the titanium cap at the front of the submersible is popped off like a wine cork. The crushing depths work most at the front of the hull, where the titanium cap is now missing. The walls collapse inward, and then down toward the rear of the submersible, where the aft titanium cap remains attached and maintains structural integrity. The incredible pressure of the ocean water compresses the atmosphere of the submarine, traveling along the hull in fractions of a nanosecond. Inside, the compressing atmosphere also works on the body of the crew, forcing them down away from the point of collapse towards the rear titanium cap. 5 adult humans are pushed against each
Basically, cap blows off, they all just get squeezed to death then, isn't it?
other and the titanium cap with so much force that their bodies begin to burst open. The water is now pushing the hull of the submarine in on itself from the front to the back, collapsing it like an empty soda can being stomped flat. The shattered remnants of the carbon fiber hull force the crew's body up against the aft titanium cap, with water quickly following. The crew.
So I'm guessing, like, this isn't even a joke or anything, but I'm guessing none of their bodies were found then. Did they just kind of rip to smithereens, basically? There's that much pressure, sure, and their bodies was just imploding. Surely there wouldn't really be anything left of them. And whatever was left of them, fish would have probably ate anyway.
Remains are liquefied into a thick whitish paste that lines the rear of the Titan. Nothing solid remains, not even teeth. It's all over in a fraction of a second, but slowing time down lets us appreciate the horrible scale of the Titan disaster. And the Coast Guard now knows who's to blame, and while the previous scenario is only speculation, it is a very good guess as to what went wrong. The Titan submersible and OceanGate, the venture responsible for ferrying tourists to the wreck of the Titanic, was largely the brainchild of libertarian billionaire Stockton Rush. Rush formed OceanGate back in 2009, believing that underwater tourism was an untapped potential.
Yeah, I think that it's an untapped potential because stuff like this happens. There's a reason why people aren't just flying backwards and forwards to space, because that is also another issue. Second, you're messing with space or deep water, I don't think you can be like commercialising that.
Rush would say it, quote, needlessly prioritized passenger safety over commercial.
Oh, do you know, like, the irony in these things that happen after the disasters happened? Those passengers would have surely saw that he was saying that. Like, was he just saying that publicly, or was he just writing that in his fucking notes and not telling it to anyone? Like, there would have been a conversation he had with passengers, just like, yeah, we skipped past all that shit. There's no need for it. Like, you're all gonna be safe. Trust me. Where's that 250k again? Just give me that before you get in the sub. So yeah, I can pretty much see why there's still loads of conspiracies and everything about this, because it just did seem like it was destined to fail from the start, and yet they still carried on and did it. But yeah, that was just mad to me. I'm going to stick with doing normal shit, and if you've enjoyed the video, drop a like, comment, subscribe, all that kind of stuff, and I'll see you on the next one. See you later.